Many believe that 50 Cent had somehow pulled strings to sabotage the event. After all, 50 had already been in a battle with Rick Ross, and it wasn't hard to imagine him pulling strings to make sure the concert didn't go through. But even if 50 wasn't behind it, Ross's involvement in the failed concert was undeniable. He had made huge promises but delivered nothing. The fans were angry, and the media was buzzing. How could this happen to someone like Big Meech? What went wrong? Was Ross really a friend to Meech, or was he just using him for clout? As the story unfolded, 50 Cent wasted no time capitalizing on the situation. He posted a series of mocking social media messages, showing that he was fully aware of the concert's failure. He even posted a picture about the cancellation, adding sarcastic captions that made it clear he wasn't about to show sympathy for Big Meech. In fact, 50 Cent seemed to revel in the situation, while Big Meech was struggling to get back on his feet. 50 Cent was making sure to stir the pot even more. He posted videos mocking the failed event, and even shared a video where a user commented on Lil Baby's absence from the concert. 50 Cent seemed to delight in every new development, mocking Meech's financial issues and taking jabs at his lack of control over the situation. After the disaster, what did Rick Ross do? Did he step in to save the day for Big Meech? Not at all. Instead, Ross just moved on to the next thing, promoting his own events and making sure his brand stayed intact. His indifference to Meech's downfall was telling. Ross didn't care that his so-called friendship had led to Big Meech's public humiliation. All he cared about was what was next for Rick Ross. Now, Big Meech is left to pick up the pieces of his shattered reputation and broken business deals. With Ross having washed his hands of the situation, it's unclear where Meech will go from here. His comeback has turned into a complete disaster. And now, fans are left wondering, can Big Meech ever recover from this betrayal? Or has Rick Ross completely ruined his chances of redemption? What does the future hold for Meech? Meanwhile, 50 Cent, who had once offered Meech a lifeline, started to distance himself from the situation. He had already invested millions into the BMF family, and watching it all go down the drain wasn't something he was willing to accept. So when Ross came in, offering quick fixes that turned out to be empty promises, 50 Cent made it clear he wasn't going to keep throwing money into a situation that was clearly falling apart. Big Meech, desperate for a quick fix, saw Ross as his way out of financial ruin. But that plan was a bust from the start. Instead of stabilizing his situation, Ross's flashy promises ended up just adding to Meech's troubles. At this point, it was clear that Rick Ross wasn't truly trying to help Big Meech. Instead, he saw an opportunity to profit off of Meech's name. Ross knew that a high-profile concert would get major attention, and that was exactly what he wanted. He talked about the concert like it was going to be a historic moment in hip-hop, with a massive lineup of artists like Lil Baby, 21 Savage, and more. Ross hyped the concert up like it was going to be Meech's big return to the spotlight. But was it really for Big Meech's benefit? Ross's involvement seemed like a calculated move to increase his own relevance. The concert was supposed to help Big Meech, but in the end, it only helped Rick Ross boost his profile. When the concert finally came, it was nothing more than a disappointment. The event was canceled just hours before it was supposed to take place, leaving fans in the dark and Big Meech humiliated. People began to wonder if 50 Cent had something to do with the cancellation, fueling rumors that he had orchestrated the entire situation. But even if 50 Cent wasn't involved, Ross's involvement in the failed concert was undeniable. He had made huge promises but delivered nothing. When the announcement came that the concert was canceled, the entire situation took a dramatic turn. The Amarant Bank Arena released a statement that the show was being called off due to unforeseen circumstances. Fans were devastated. The promise of seeing Big Meech's grand return had turned into a public nightmare. And for Big Meech, it was a crushing blow. The problem with Ross's support was that it was never truly about helping Big Meech. From the start, Ross seemed to have an agenda, one that had little to do with Big Meech's success and more to do with his own self-promotion. Ross threw stacks of cash in Meech's face, flaunting his wealth in a way that was supposed to seem like a helping hand. But in reality, it felt more like an attempt to show off. Was Ross really trying to help Meech get back into the game, or was he just using Meech's name to boost his own brand? To understand the depth of Ross's selfishness, you have to consider Meech's situation at the time. Big Meech wasn't just struggling to get back on his feet. He was drowning in financial debt. He had blown through the money he once had. His connections were gone, and he was desperate for a fresh start. This desperation is what made him vulnerable to Ross's offers. But when Ross made his promises, they came with strings attached at the time. Ross made it seem like he was going to be the one to put Big Meech back on top, helping him with a major business deal and a high-profile concert. But when it came down to it, all Ross was really offering was a flashy image that looked good on social media. His actual support? Non-existent. Ross wasn't going to fight for Meech's comeback. He was just going to profit from it. Big Meech, for all his street smarts, made a major mistake by trusting Ross. He thought he was getting a friend, a business partner who would have his back. But instead, Ross was a businessman first, and Big Meech was just another opportunity to capitalize on. One of the most shocking parts of this entire saga was how quickly Meech blew through the money he had. Before his release from prison, he had a massive deal with 50 Cent, $5 million to be exact. 50 Cent had promised to help the BMF family, investing in their future. But that money quickly disappeared, and no one knew exactly where it went. Was it bad investments, poor decisions, or just plain wastefulness? The truth is, Meech had already burned through much of the wealth he once controlled. He was no longer the man who ran a multi-million-dollar empire. He had lost everything, and that's where Ross stepped in, offering the illusion of a fresh start. But the truth was that Meech wasn't getting the help he truly needed. Ross was more concerned about promoting himself than actually putting Meech back in the game. You won't believe what just happened to one of the most infamous figures in the world of hip-hop and crime. Big Meech, after years behind bars, thought he was going to make a legendary return to the game. But instead, he walked straight into a disaster. And what's even more shocking, Rick Ross might be the one to blame for his downfall. You heard that right. Ross didn't just play the role of a friend. He played a game that left Big Meech stranded. A game full of broken promises and failed attempts at redemption. The real question is, who's really to blame here? Is it Rick Ross, who promised the world but didn't deliver? Or is it Big Meech, who let himself be caught in Ross's flashy web? Stay tuned as we break down how this entire saga unfolded, step by step, and what might come next for Big Meech. Big Meech's return to the public wasn't just a comeback. It was supposed to be monumental. After spending years in prison, the streets had long been waiting for his return. Meech wasn't just a name. He was a brand, the face of BMF, a kingpin with a legacy that spanned more than just criminal activities. When he got out, the expectation was that he'd take over the game once again, just like he did before. But there was a problem. The game had changed. The streets weren't what they used to be. And despite his legendary status, Big Meech was stepping into a new world. A world where social media influencers, viral moments, and business deals had replaced the old-school hustle he once thrived in. It wasn't just about power anymore. It was about making the right moves at the right time. That's where Rick Ross came into the picture. Ross had made a name for himself by mixing street credibility with the entertainment business, building a multi-million-dollar empire in hip-hop. For a moment, it seemed like the perfect opportunity for Meech. If there was anyone who could help him get back on his feet, it was Rick Ross, right? The two connected, and immediately, Ross began hyping up Meech's return, boasting about how he was going to be the one to help Meech make a legendary comeback. Ross was everywhere, posting about the big concert that was going to launch Meech back into the limelight. They even took photos together, sending a message to the public that they were united. But what looked like a partnership was quickly turning into something darker.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more awesome content.